You're listening to the Whole Hog Sports Podcast. And now, here's your host, Matt Jones.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm your guest host, Christina Long, filling in for Matt Jones. Today on the show, Ethan Westerman will join me in the studio to talk about Arkansas men's basketball's game against Houston this weekend, as well as a couple of other exciting bits of news from across campus. And we'll also preview this weekend's college football playoff games. It's a big weekend of football. In the college football playoffs, some other bowl games, some FCS playoff games. We won't dive into those too much, but looking forward to discussing some playoff picks. But first, a word from Kendall King.
Kendall King, we're proud of over 4 decades of design. We're continuing the legacy of great creative design by combining our brands of Kendall King, Soapbox, and Shopcart. Together, these brands represent a new focus in marketing design with individual attention to specific areas. Through our design expertise supported by a team of talented professionals, we showcase our best. We are Kendall King, we are Soapbox, we are Shopcart, we are design.
Another huge non-conference game for Arkansas men's basketball this weekend. Number 8 Houston. Arkansas ranked number 14 right now. They've had this group of really tough non-conference games. This is the last one of those against, one of the big storylines has been them playing against every Elite 8 team from last year. And a lot of that has to do with non-conference as well as all those SEC teams. So this is the last game of that kind of tough non-conference stretch. They're 2-2 in these kind of games. They've got another non-conference game after this against James Madison, but this is the big headline game, the last one. So Anthony, our men's basketball writer, wrote yesterday about how Kelvin Sampson's teams are known for physicality. They're known for toughness. That's kind of been his thing. They're a physical team. And how important it will be for Arkansas to match that. And it made me think back a little bit to when they played Michigan State, which was the first opponent of these kind of big-name non-conference teams that they've faced. And I remember Calipari saying that they needed to be ready to play a football game and that this was going to be tough and physical. And they didn't. They lost that game, and they didn't really contend with that physicality all that well. And I'm curious from your perspective, how do you feel like they've progressed since that game in terms of the physicality and the toughness, and do you expect them to be able to stand up to Houston a little bit better than they did against Michigan State?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's still kind of maybe to be determined exactly how the front court does with a lot of physicality, because, I mean, you think about really their tests so far this year against Cameron Boozer of Duke. I mean, they really struggled against him. It was one of the worst defensive performances from the front court. Of course, Boozer's probably going to be he's the front runner for National Player of the Year and Freshman of the Year. So that's kind of, maybe to be a little bit expected. Against JT Toppin, they struggled some, but really, I feel like kind of toward the end held their own a little bit more. Michigan State was a really poor showing up front. So, I mean, it's kind of still to be determined, I think, in these big games. But I do think that they have their confidence up right now after, beating now Louisville and Texas Tech. I do think that this is the type of game that Arkansas really needed to have right before conference play. Because if we think back to last year, what was their first SEC game? It was at Tennessee, and they were not prepared for that physicality. They got absolutely bullied in that game. I think they lost by 20 plus. And really, the front court was what was so bad in that game, and the rebounding. I think that a game like this right before you get into SEC play is critical because, you do got to bring, I guess, your football helmet or whatever metaphor we want to use. It's you're going to be out there playing a team that is known for its physicality, and that's what gets you ready for the SEC because the SEC is also a very physical league. So I think that in playing Houston, it's going to be a good gauge for that growth. Have they gotten better with a more physical game? Because I think this is going to maybe resemble the closest to, out of all their big games they played so far, this will probably resemble Michigan State more than I would think any of the others that they've played.
Arkansas is kind of generating some buzz, especially after those last couple big wins as one of the SEC's top teams. I mean, they're the second highest ranked SEC team right now in terms of the AP poll. And I asked Anthony about this the other day, but how are you expecting this team to hold up once SEC play starts? Because right now you kind of have an idea, especially the way they scheduled, it's not like they're going into SEC play having not played anybody. Just like you said, they're testing themselves, and that's really big, and hopefully that pays off for them. But are you expecting that to pay off, and are you expecting to see them start well in SEC play?
I do think I'm expecting it to pay off for them. I feel different this year than last year. I know last year, the record wasn't necessarily bad per se. I think they'd lost to Illinois and Baylor at this stage, which were, respectable losses. They'd beaten Michigan, but you hadn't really fully felt like they were that tested, in my opinion. I feel like this year you just know a lot more of what you've got. And I do think that also this is a byproduct of my confidence in them going to SEC play is a byproduct of the SEC's a little bit weaker this year. It's not a little bit. It's a lot weaker than last year.
It's definitely not like last year.
And it's one of those things where last year was like honestly like a once in a blue moon season how good the league was. Like you knew it wasn't going to be as good this year, but I think if you're somebody who wants to see the health of the league be good, you wanted to maybe see it just a small step back, and you're kind of showing that you can sustain being still really good. It's not that this year, in my opinion. I think if you're looking across the league, I mean, Arkansas, you can make a very strong argument as the most, maybe right at this point, team you have the most confidence in the whole SEC. I think Vanderbilt, you can make some arguments for, though they just had a real overtime battle against Memphis. I mean, Alabama in spurts has looked good, but that defense has not looked good. I think a lot of these top teams in the SEC right now have some issues you can point to. Arkansas, I think, has the fewest of them, in my opinion. And I also think that just having played Duke and Michigan State so close, I know Duke ended up being a 9-point loss, but they were in it. They were leading that game pretty late. And Michigan State, of course, they lost by 3. You know that Arkansas can compete with top teams. It's not a question, and you can't say the same about a lot of these other SEC teams. I just think that Arkansas, having played the schedule that they have played, and now you're adding another one in there with Houston, and James Madison's never bad either. I mean, for that to be your game right before you get into SEC play is kind of, in my opinion, a little risky. Like you would want even more of a cupcake right before you get into it, but they've put together a schedule where you know what you're getting at this point. And I think that they still haven't, really even touched what their potential could be.
We've talked and written so much about Darius Acuff and about Trevin Brazile, especially after the last couple games and the performances that both of those guys have had and the way that they've kind of worked together to make Arkansas a better team. Is there anybody else you feel like... I know Anthony wrote a good story this week about DJ Wagner kind of in that off-ball role and how he's really embraced that. Is there anybody else you see as someone who's maybe been underrated or overshadowed by those big numbers from guys like Acuff and Brazile? And also, is there anybody you feel like needs to get it into gear for them to have success in SEC play?
Yeah, I feel like the answer could honestly kind of change at different points of the year, which is good that Arkansas has a lot of guys that are stepping up, because Malik Thomas has not been himself the past 2 games. He's not scored or shot the ball as well as he can. But Carter Knox, you look at him, and he's really upped his game. I think that Arkansas has done a good job of having other contributors step up behind those 2, which for a lot of the year, when you're talking about the 2, it was Malik Thomas and Darius Acuff, and now Trevin Brazile's established himself as really a focal point of the team. But I think that that's kind of the beauty of this team right now, is that you have 2 guys in Acuff and Brazile that at least recently have shown that they can be real stars. Malik Thomas can be a star. He's not played great recently, but he can be. And now you have Carter Knox coming on strong with his game against Texas Tech, where he was really impactful in all different ways of the game. DJ Wagner's kind of that quiet, just kind of does a lot right, if that makes sense. I think it's one of those things that anybody who watches the game and isn't just stat watching, sees oh, wait, you're really important to just making sure this all goes how it should. You're defending hard, you can drive. And that's the thing. He can drive and open up a lot of stuff for other people. And then I think that you've kind of had hit or miss with some other characters in there too, with Malik Ewins had some really good games, had some really bad games. Nick Pringle, same deal there. You have a lot of guys that are showing that they're capable, and I think if you're Arkansas, what you want to see is last year it took until February 1st, that game at Kentucky, that all these pieces that maybe you had gotten a good performance here, a good performance there, but they just was never all clicking. It was they had that game finally, and it took it being in a really, unexpected way to go into Kentucky with a team that was ranked number 12 at the time. And these pieces just came together. It was all of a sudden, wow, they learned how to play with each other, and they're all doing good things. Billy Richmond, I can't believe I haven't mentioned him yet. He's somebody who I think you can't put a price tag on what he brings to the team, because he brings the edge, sometimes a little bit too much of it, but he brings defense, he brings excitement. He's someone that he makes a whole lot of plays in games that in the moment you're wow, that really feels like it changed the momentum. Or it got Arkansas, the spark that it needed to maybe make a run. They've just got a lot of players that, are finding out their new roles this year, because you have a lot of returners from last year that that are now meshing with a core of like 4 new guys this year, and it's just going to take some time. But I think they've long-winded way to say I don't really know if I have like that one person that I'm like is flying under the radar necessarily for this team.
Like everyone's kind of gotten their moment.
Exactly.
Everyone's had a moment. Everyone's flashed. Everyone's shown their potential. Sometimes they've stepped back and you need them to come back on. And honestly, I think that's what's interesting about this team. And you mentioned this a little bit. What's made this team a little bit different than some recent years where if your one guy or your 2 guys aren't absolutely on, what are you going to do? They don't seem to have that problem. It seems like on any given day, they can have somebody have a really good game. And you want it to be sustainable, but they've had so many guys kind of show flashes. It's more about, and that's always going to be the case. The basketball season is long. You're not going to have, Trevor Brazil's not going to score 26 points every night. It's not going to happen, and that's okay. But it seems like they have more guys who can pop on any given day than they have in some of the recent years.
Yeah, and I think that that's the key, that you're getting people stepping up whenever maybe others are down. Malik Thomas, if he was on in the Texas Tech game like he has been other times of the year, I mean, that would have been a real blowout, I think. The funny thing about that is like Texas Tech is the example of what you just said, that they have 2 star guys, Anderson and Toppin, that I'm telling you, if one of those guys is not, like, they both have to be on. If even one of them's not on their game, I really don't think they have a good chance against some of these top-level teams. Arkansas doesn't have that problem because they have a little bit more depth and they have a lot of capable guys.
So do you think they beat Houston this weekend?
I think this is a really tricky game because Houston is so good defensively. I mean, I had their stats up a minute ago. I think they're number 2 by KenPom in defensive efficiency, and teams are shooting team's field goal percentage is 37%. That's the 11th best, opponent field goal percentage in Division I, which there's 350 plus D1 teams. They're really good defensively. I think Arkansas is really good offensively, so it's a strength on strength in my opinion. I think this makes for a really intriguing game. I think Arkansas certainly can win. I can certainly see them losing too. It's all going to be a lot of basketball comes down to this. Are you making your shots, and are you getting open shots?
I want to hit on a couple of other news items. First, women's basketball beat UMKC the other day on Wednesday, 92-77. They play Stephen F. Austin tomorrow at 1. Did you take anything interesting away from that UMKC game in particular?
Yeah, a few little things. Talea Jones, their leading scorer, she came back from concussion protocol, and it's very common to see a player come back from an injury like that and just kind of hesitant out there. It's kind of hard to get back in the flow when you haven't played in a couple weeks. She was really good. She came off the bench and she scored 24 points and was really efficient in doing so. So that was a good thing for Arkansas to see, because you also wonder whenever this happens. I know men's basketball last year, much bigger level of how this happened with Boogie Fland, where you had a guy miss a lot of time and the team's playing well, and then you throw him back in, you're like, how's this going to look? The women's team played 2 games, and they played pretty well in them without her. So it was kind of like, what's this going to look like when she's back? And it just felt like it all clicked still. So that was good for them. Bonnie Dees is, I don't even know how she does it, to be honest. At 5'9", to get that many rebounds, really impressive. She got 16 the other night, and it was funny because she fouls a lot because she's so aggressive. That's, how it works if you foul a lot. Or if you're aggressive, you're probably going to foul a lot. She got you're going into the fourth quarter, and I looked at the box score. I'm like, oh, she only has 2 fouls right now. So I knew she was going to go play so aggressive, so hard. She fouls out with 2 minutes left. So she made the most. She was like, I got 3 to spare right now. I'm going to use them well. And to her credit, before she fouled out, she sure did grab a lot more rebounds. I think 3 more assists, some more points. She filled up the stat sheet some more, but she's good. I think that their team really is starting to click a little bit. They've got a lot to work on defensively still, but the offense is starting to look a lot prettier.
We've been talking about football staff additions all week this week. 3 more made official yesterday. We've got cornerbacks coach Eddie Hicks from Cincinnati, running backs coach David Johnson from Florida State, and defensive line coach Marion Hobby from Tennessee. You wrote about these guys, most of them, when these got reported. These were all ones that had been previously reported. These were all expected. You wrote about these, back when they got announced a few weeks ago. Does anything stand out in particular about any of these guys? Are these Silverfield guys? I know obviously they're not coming with him from Memphis, but he's hired a lot of people that have had ties with him before or overlapped on other staffs with Silverfield. Is that the case for some of these guys, or what do you take away?
Yeah, I really don't think for any of these guys, maybe Johnson, the running backs coach. I think he was at Yeah, he was at Memphis there for a little bit with Silverfield, so that's one of his guys. But these three, honestly, I was kind of shocked that Eddie Hicks is going to be the cornerbacks coach. I thought that they were going to bring him in to be some sort of maybe like analyst or something because he has experience doing that at LSU, and he was the cornerbacks coach at Cincinnati this past year. Their secondary, from numbers at least, wasn't all that great, but he had that experience at LSU in kind of more of an analyst role, but no, he's going to be the cornerbacks coach, which makes me wonder if maybe Deron Wilson or maybe one of these others that have been reported as a defensive backs is going to not. I feel like one of them is going to be in some sort of just.
They'll have a different title.
Yeah.
They won't have
Exactly
position coach. It'll be that and something, or it'll be an analyst, or it'll be a something or something like that.
And if I had looking at those names that they're bringing, I would have. If somebody, held a knife to my throat and said, which one's going to be the one to have the not normal title, I would have said Eddie Hicks, to be honest, just from their background. So it's not him, though. So now the intrigue is there. Who's it going to be? But Marion Hobby feels like a really key hire to me. He's a veteran guy, and he has defensive coordinator experience, too, if I'm not mistaken. He's somebody who I think brings in a lot of relationships as far as like he's been in the NFL a lot of different stints, and he also has a background in strength and conditioning. Like that's how he started, with strength and conditioning. And I know that Arkansas fans would love to see a defensive line that is really big and really strong and lasts a whole game.
Well conditioned.
Exactly. I'm about to say, I also will be interested to see how they build this roster with a guy who understands the importance of strength and conditioning on the defensive line, probably more than most D-line coaches, as far as how many guys is he going to get to rotate in? Like, is he one of the ones that's like, I need not as many guys, but guys that are in really good shape and I can just leave out there and keep going? Or is he going to be like, all right, the more the merrier, we'll rotate a lot? So I'll be interested in that. And then David Johnson, he's a guy who's been at Florida State for quite some time now. I think maybe 6 years at Florida State before coming to Arkansas. And I don't know. I feel like that's a respected program. They've had some good years while he's there. I'll be interested. Rodney Hill played for him at Florida State.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see. I know Rodney Hill, whenever he was announced or like reported, he tweeted something that like, "Oh, it's up" or something like that, to where you're like, "Is this you saying you're
one
back?"
of those where you have to interpret the few words that they put in the Twitter post.
Exactly. I was like, "Is this you saying, oh yeah, I know he's saying it's up, like I love this coach and whatever, but like are you saying you're gonna be back, or are you just saying, oh, this is awesome?"
We had this with Jaylen Brown. What did he tweet? And did we decided to count that as a return, right?
Yeah, it's something like, "I love being a hog," but then
then like a photo of himself.
Yeah,
and it's like, so do you love it so much that you're coming back? Is that what this means?
Exactly. And thank goodness this Instagram account exists where they show people signing papers that I don't know what is on these papers. I'm sure it says something along the lines of, "I will agree to financial stuff." I don't know, but he was in one of the photos, so I was like, all right, we're good.
Speaking of interpreting people's social media, this is much clearer, but I know on one of our episodes, either this week or last week, we were talking about the general manager thing and how they had Scott Gasper coming over from Memphis, but then there was also the report that they were going to hire Geiska Crowley from Arizona. We're going to figure out how to say that. And from Arizona, and both of these guys were guys that had the title general manager at their previous school, and so we were kind of going, okay, what, surely that's not going to be the case here. We don't know what the titles were going to look like. Neither one has been officially announced, to my knowledge. Scott Gasper, though, has updated his Twitter bio, and it says his official title is Senior Director of Recruiting and Personnel.
He must have gotten tired of reading in stories that his title
Scott Gasper, whose job we do not understand and do not know his title.
He's like, let me just put it in the Twitter bio.
Yeah, so we know the title for him. We still don't know Crowley's specific title. It might be general manager. It might not be. His title at Arizona, I think, is general manager and like pro liaison or something. So we don't know exactly what he will have, assuming that goes through and that becomes official. So we'll kind of stay tuned for that one. But I also wanted to shout out some really big news with Jordan Anthony winning the Bowerman Award, which, like I said on the show the other day, is the Heisman Trophy of track and field. It's a huge, huge deal. He's Arkansas's third Bowerman winner. They're the first program to have 3 winners of this award. There was, I think, 4 programs, including Arkansas, that had 2. He's the first football player to win the Bowerman. If you'll recall, he was on this football team until last season. And what makes this so unique, too, is not just the fact that he played football, but because of that, he started his training 3 months after last year. 3 months after most other college runners. Because most people, the indoor season starts in January. Most of these athletes are starting their training around September. Well, he obviously couldn't do that. He was on the football team. And so in December of last year, he didn't start his training for this past indoor season until last December. And so that's much later than most people. And he honestly came out of nowhere. I mean, we knew he was fast. We knew he was going to be good. I don't think anybody, even track people were necessarily looking at him as a guy that was going to win titles and win the Bowerman. He kind of came out of nowhere. And it was really, really remarkable to see. Matt Jones wrote several stories about, him winning this award. He talked to Chris Bucknam, who recently retired, about how this was kind of he called it his last. He just retired earlier this month at the end of the cross-country season. And so it was a huge deal for Jordan and a huge deal for the program, and really exciting. Matt's got some cool stories on our site at wholehogsports.com about that. He talked to Jordan and to Doug Case before the award was announced the other day, and so it's been an exciting. I covered track last season some. Matt and I both did, and it was always really exciting to watch Jordan, and it was really cool to see his evolution and his really fast rise throughout the indoor and the outdoor season. So just a huge way for him to end his college career. He's turned professional now, so where he goes next will be something to watch for sure. But it was a really cool ceremony. It's a lot like the Heisman. It kind of looks like it. They go, the finalists are there. There's 3 finalists. They're there. There's a men's and a women's winner. A distance runner from Alabama won on the women's side. I don't think Arkansas's women have ever had a Bowerman winner.
No, they had I think maybe 2023. Who was she was one of the 3 finalists. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking on her name. She was phenomenal.
I don't know who it was.
Oh my goodness.
I think they've had probably finalists before, but they've never had a winner. But the men now have had 3, which is really exciting.
I tuned in last night to watch the award ceremony. It was really cool. And Jordan Anthony, I thought his speech was really good.
Yeah, I liked his outfit too. He had kind of a sparkly jacket happening. It was cool.
His speech was very pure. I thought it was very honestly I don't know. You could just tell how much it meant to him, and I thought it was really cool to see that. I am really frustrated that I cannot think of who was the Bowerman finalist on the women a few years ago, but they've had quite a few finalists, I feel like, but no winners.
Look it up during our break here that we're gonna take. We'll have a word for our sponsors, and then we'll talk a little bit of college football playoff.
Kindle King, we're proud of over 4 decades of design. We're continuing the legacy of great creative design by combining our brands of Kindle King, Soapbox, and Shopcart. Together, these brands represent a new focus in marketing design, with individual attention to specific areas. Through our design expertise supported by a team of talented professionals, we showcase our best. We are Kindle King, we are Soapbox, we are Shopcart, we are design.
Welcome back. It was Britton Wilson who was the women's Bowerman finalist a couple of years ago. We looked that up during our break, but we're going to get to some playoff discussion. We've got all those playoff games coming up this weekend, and we'll pick some winners there. But first, I want to tell you about our friends at Bentonville Glass. They've been serving their community since 1971, and they're committed, professional, and versatile. If you're looking for a quality leader in Northwest Arkansas, and if you're looking for skilled craftsmanship, you can choose Bentonville Glass for all of your glass market needs with the highest quality products. You can visit them at 507 South Main in Bentonville or at bentonvilleglass.com. I am very excited about these playoff games. I think we have some really, really good games in here. You asked me the other day which ones I was most excited about. I pulled Alabama and Oklahoma. Somehow just didn't mention Miami at Texas A&M. That's a huge one. But let's just go in order. Let's just go game by game and talk about what's happening here and pick some of these games. So tonight at 7, you got number 9 Alabama at number 8 Oklahoma. OU is favored by 1.5 when I looked this morning, but I know that's moved around. And I think I was listening to a national podcast, and I think it was maybe Alabama by 1.5. And I know, depending on where you look, and I think it's flipped around a little bit. The winner of this one plays Indiana next. I think OU wins. I've gone back and forth about this, but I think OU wins. I think ugly, low scoring, close. Alabama lost to them earlier in the year, 23-21. I think I was reading ESPN. They have Bill Connolly, who does a lot of, if you're an advanced stats person, you probably know who he is already, but he does a lot of advanced stats work at ESPN. And I was reading, he did a huge advanced stats. It's not all stat based, but a lot of it is in there. Preview of all these games and all these teams, and kind of answered a lot of key questions about each of these teams using some advanced stats. He highlighted, because we have multiple rematches in this playoff from the regular season. He said, I believe it was, there have been 6 rematches this season, some of them in conference championships, things like that. And in 5 of them, the team that lost the first time won the second time. I'm pretty sure that's what was in there. So I know that it is maybe risky to pick a team to beat somebody twice. I just don't trust Alabama that much. They didn't play well down the stretch. I don't think their offense is playing well enough right now to get past what is a really, really good Oklahoma defense. Oklahoma's offense definitely does not inspire me. I think they can do enough, and I think their defense is one that puts up points. That's been a huge reason they've won a lot of games this year. And I think that threat of the defense being able to score and the defense being able to help them out is what makes me think OU gets the edge here. Plus, if it's a close game, Oklahoma's got the Lou Groza Award winner, and Alabama has a problem at kicker. So I'm just saying.
Yeah. I really struggle picking this one because it's like, this is the type of matchup that I love in the playoff, though, because it is really, truly, I'm going into it as a toss-up, not knowing what to expect. I think I'm going to pick Alabama because I think Oklahoma really relies maybe too much on making that crazy. It almost reminds me of like Beamer ball with South Carolina, how like sometimes you're like, oh, they just kind of they always do it, but they need
There's
that crazy play.
thing, yeah.
And I think Oklahoma does that maybe too much with the offense that they have to make me want to pick them. But it is like a really good environment.
Both of these teams are very flawed. Like both of these teams have
Exactly.
weaknesses. Both of them could be. It's going to be close, I think.
And I think that, the home field advantage is going to be a real thing in this because in Norman, that I don't know if they've had classes in any of the public schools in that area today. Like, I'm sure this is like
I want to say
massive.
I want to say I heard that they didn't.
Yeah.
That they yeah.
Oklahoma fans love their
Yeah.
football. I mean, this is 2 storied programs that this is a good matchup. Venables has had Alabama's number, which that's why I'm like, I feel like it's gonna stop at some point. I'm like, it would be this game,
spot.
and I just do think that the Oklahoma offense is too flawed for me to pick them. But then again, I think they very well could win. I mean, Isaiah Satania, the local Fayetteville High School grad, Arkansas, former Razorback, he could be very important in this game. So that's a little added intrigue.
Definitely. Saturday at 11, you've got number 10 Miami at number 7 Texas A&M. Texas A&M is favored by 3. The winner of this one has to play Ohio State. Who do you feel confident in here?
Yeah, I'm going to pick Texas A&M here. This is one of those weird ones that I looked at it and I thought it was a rematch for some reason in my brain because I think they did play a few years ago.
Oh, really?
Early in the year, and both of these teams played Notre Dame early in the year this year, to where it's like they had that weird triangle of teams going on thing, to where it feels like in my brain like, oh, this is a rematch, but it's definitely not. I mean, and that's why I can live with the decision that the committee made for sure, because I mean they did play, both of these teams played Notre Dame, and how did Notre Dame do against them? Like, that's how it is. But I'm going to pick Texas A&M because I think that defensive line of theirs, Cassius Howell, I just think that you see this a lot of times in the postseason and in these early season games. SEC defensive lines are just different from really Big 12 and ACC. Like, they're just bigger, strong. It's things that they haven't really seen a lot of the times. I just think they're going to overwhelm Miami with that D-line.
I talked about how I think Alabama and Oklahoma is going to be ugly. I think it's going to be kind of messy. This one is going to be messy in a different way, I think. I think this one's going to be really fun. These are 2 quarterbacks who are a little bit turnover prone. I think they've both thrown like 10 picks, each of them. I think I'm going with Texas A&M. I'm not confident. Yeah. I don't have a great explanation. I don't trust Carson Beck is like a large part of it. I don't trust Mario Cristobal to do anything. I just feel better about Texas A&M. I know, their last time out wasn't great when, their game against Texas was not good. I don't know. I really could see this one going either way, and I really struggled. But for some reason, I feel okay about Texas A&M, and maybe it's just that they're at home and they're the higher seed. I feel like my family does bowl pick'ems, and we picked all of the playoff games. We picked like a whole bracket, and I went really chalky. And I do this every year when I do my March Madness bracket. I do the same thing. I get to the end and I have like all ones in the final four, and I'm like, okay, well, this cannot be it. So I have to go back and change some things. And so I feel like when I was picking this, obviously much smaller field, obviously football is different. You don't have upsets in the same way usually as you do in basketball, but I feel like a lot of my picks were very chalky. And then I went back and revisited some to be like, okay, I can't just pick the higher seed in every
You're
game.
like, I will go with the 8 over the 9.
Exactly. That's what I do. I'm like, all right, I can feel better about picking the 9. Yeah. Except I didn't do that. I'm picking Oklahoma.
I'm gonna say we're gonna get to these later picks, and you're gonna shock me and be like, oh yeah, James Madison. And
James Madison winning it all.
But we're not alone in this, because ESPN Analytics does like kind of the win probability. They have Oklahoma, Alabama at like 51-49, and they have the Texas A&M Miami game at 54-46. So like, analytics also agree. Like, this is like, you can't really go wrong picking one of the two. Just make a justification.
Yeah. Let's move to Saturday at 2:30. You've got number 11 Tulane at number 6 Ole Miss. Ole Miss favored by 17.5, and the winner here plays Georgia. I think Tulane might cover, but I do think Ole Miss is going to win. That's not a hot take. I don't think you're going to find a whole lot of people that are going to be picking Tulane, unless you're going to surprise me. But I think Tulane has a chance, because I think Ole Miss is, again, a flawed team. They've obviously got the coach drama and that kind of off-field chaos and whatever. We'll see how much that matters. It might have the opposite effect. Like, they might just be really, locked in after, they might really just be excited to put that behind them and get back to playing football. Or maybe with this, half that staff is also on LSU staff right now. A lot of those guys are being allowed to coach in this. So how much does that matter? I don't know, because Tulane's in a similar boat. And that's, I think, one of the things that's intriguing about this game. This is the other rematch game. Ole Miss blew them out in the regular season. They won by 35. Mm-hmm. I don't think we see that again. I do not think we see a 35-point margin. Tulane just played really bad in that game. They just weren't really themselves. And it would surprise me if that happened again here. That game was also Trinidad Chambliss' second game. There just wasn't a lot of film on him. People just didn't really know what to make of him yet. And obviously there's a lot more. The book is kind of out on him. I think there's a talent difference here, just kind of on a fundamental level. But like I said, I think Tulane has a chance. I think they could cover the 17.5-point spread, but I do not think that they win the game.
Yeah. This is so interesting, because so much has been made of Lane Kiffin and all that drama, and Ole Miss was like the epicenter of it all. But I really do think that they have, and for this specific game, the lesser of the coaching drama, to be honest, because they've kind of settled and they've moved their different direction. I mean, you look at John Summerall. Have you looked at his Twitter page?
Okay, no, but I saw somebody reference this, but I haven't actually gone and looked.
It is a photo split down the middle, edited with half of his shirt as Florida, the other half as Tulane.
He literally did a house-divided license plate.
And then he has a cover photo of just two logos.
That is so funny.
I'm like, I feel like Ole Miss somehow has the lesser of the coaching drama in this one, because Summerall is like...
How do people do... I would be so interested how people on both sides of that feel about that. Do people think that's cool or
annoying?
I
feel like Florida fans understand it. Or I feel like both of them understand it because that's how it is. But Florida fans, it's like, are you really going to tell them, like, yeah, don't coach Tulane in the playoff? I know you built them up.
Didn't he donate like $100,000 to Tulane and was like, I love this?
Basically.
which honestly, I don't hate.
Yeah.
I understand why fans would be like, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But like, hey, whatever. Like, it's your money.
You know that John Summerall, like, of course, I think he wants Tulane to do well in the playoff. But like, I don't think he's going to be too upset whenever he gets to finally edit this photo and it just be all Florida on it too, and he can move forward with his next chapter.
Yeah.
But some sad news with John Summerall. He announced today that his father died.
Oh, wow.
So that's really sad news right before a playoff game.
Yeah,
I just think that, for all the all the off-field stuff just mentioned makes me lean Ole Miss, but I also just think on the field they're the far superior team. I like them to win pretty big, to be honest.
Okay. I'll go out on my limb and say that they cover. We'll see. Watch. I'm going to text you tomorrow and be like,
or I'll text you and be like, oh, look, Tulane's good episode. What if Summerall did the craziest thing and he led Tulane to like a national championship and then he just was like, Florida, I don't think I want to go there anymore. I have a national champion here.
They buy him out of his Florida contract to keep him at Tulane. Saturday at 6:30. The least exciting game on here. They saved the worst for last. Number 12, James Madison at number 5, Oregon. Oregon's favored by 20.5. Winner plays Texas Tech, which that was a game I didn't know how to pick. Oregon versus Texas Tech because, spoiler alert, I think Oregon's going to win this football game. I don't want to have the whole fight about should the G5 teams be in the playoff. I think they should. I think, what are we even doing if they're not? I would pick Oregon over a lot of teams, though. I think JMU has a good defense. Their offense is good for some big plays, but I just think Oregon's really good, and I think Oregon could win this whole thing. And this one's just not going to be that exciting, I don't think. It's a bummer, but I don't know.
I just really hope that the two JMU fans who braved what looked like not the most awesome conditions at the ACC championship.
They never cut back to them after the end of the game. I was like, show me the JMU fans in the ACC championship.
Are they falling to the ground, weeping in tears, crying in joy right now? Like, what are they doing? We didn't get to see them.
They showed them all game, and then they didn't show their reaction. I was upset. Maybe they couldn't.
I hope we get to see those two in Autzen Stadium. They make the trip up there, because I mean, I guess like you said, like. Argument aside of whether this should be even happening or not, like this is the situation. We have James Madison versus Oregon in the college football playoff, and I'm here for it. I will have it on my TV. I don't know how long, but it will kickoff. We will have it on the TV. I think Oregon beats them really. The line's 20.5. I think it's going to be a lot worse than that, but yeah, I mean, I'm glad that. Group of 5, like I get it. This year was a weird circumstance. You have 2 of them, but like I like having at least one of them a chance.
Yeah, I had to check what time this game is because I was like, if this is also a night game, I'm putting this one on the big TV and James Madison, Oregon on the small TV. Montana State in the FCS semifinal. Huge stuff. I've listened to like 3 podcasts about this week. It's so cool. I love it so much. I think it's on ABC. Maybe it's like on a big TV network. And I think it's gonna be super fun. I'm excited to watch it.
ABC.
I'm really looking forward to that. That's at 3. So that'll be during the other. So hey, if Tulane is definitely not covering, I might switch it over to the Brawl of the Wild for a little bit.
I've said this 1,000 times how glorious it is that you get to the end of the road in the FCS and you're usually you've been shoved up into the Montanas and Dakotas for these games because that's where these dynasties live. But hey, this year the FCS bracket, you got on one side, your glorious Montana State, Montana. On the other side, you have Illinois State, Villanova. We got a little parity in the FCS this year, dare I say. But I love the FCS playoffs.
I love that they do them all on campus. I wish college football would do that. That's what I love about this first round. And I know we've only had it, last year was the first time, but it's so cool. Yeah. That's half the fun of some of these games is that it's going to be really cool.
I'm like almost in favor of college football playoff expansion, just of like getting more games on campuses in a first. I just think it's so fun. Because that's the crazy thing is a lot of times it makes sense in basketball and a lot of other sports to like have all these games in one centralized place because a lot of these arenas and stuff that college basketball teams will play in are like some play in NBA arenas and stuff. These college football stadiums most of the time serve one purpose, and they are for football. Like Razorback Stadium does nothing for most of the year.
They're trying to fix that. They're trying to get some concerts in there and make a little money.
Most of the time, it just sits. It's like, why not put games in those stadiums? I mean, that's what college football is all about. So it is fun. I'm glad that we have these games on campus in the playoff.
Who is your national title winner?
Ooh, I have some teams that I'm kind of pulling for. I feel like. One of them is not Ohio State, but it is my gut feeling that they will find their way on top. It just maybe I'm the person who is negative and like I always feel like the feel good story isn't going to happen, and you're going to get just the bland national champion. That's what
Corey was telling me.
I'm like I would love to like a new national champion. Indiana like burst through the wall and win a national championship. But then I just have in the back of my head, I feel like Ohio State's going to just make it all eventually boring for us by watching them beat like Oregon or something, where it's like a matchup that we've seen before. I do think Georgia is playing really well right now, so it would not shock me if we get to the Fiesta Bowl semifinal and it's Georgia, Ohio State, and Ohio State gets knocked out there. I almost feel like you're talking about rematch games. Like I just almost have more confidence in Georgia to beat Ohio State than Indiana to do it twice in a year. Because, I mean, what was Indiana going into the Big Ten championship? Like, they had lost how many in a row to them?
I don't remember. It was something crazy.
It was a long losing streak. Yeah. I'm like, do they really got two in a row?
But this is the new Indiana football, baby. Indiana's my national champion.
I bet say, are they starting their own lengthy win streak over Ohio State?
Indiana is my national champion. Surprise, surprise, I picked the number 1 overall seed to win the national championship. What a bold take by me. I just think they've been so good and beaten teams so handily. I have them rematching with Ohio State, which is tough. And I'm not that confident in the Ohio State pick getting there. Because like I said, I think there's several teams that are capable of winning this thing. It would be hard for them to win a rematch. It would be. I want it to happen, and I think it can, so I'm going with it will.
Yeah. Speak it into existence.
It is exactly. It is hard to not like Indiana. Our pal Jackson Fuller is kind of an Indiana hater. He's over it.
Which
He's the first person I've encountered who's like, I'm anti-Indiana. He's also a Miami fan, so he's got some anxiety going on right now. But no, my pick is Indiana. I want it for them. I think it would be awesome. And I think it's certainly possible. This is not a team that has been getting away with it. This is not a team that has snuck in, we found ourselves as the number 1 seed to play. They have earned it. They have beaten the crap out of people. I really like them.
Yeah, and this came to my mind watching them play Ohio State. Like, I think we've gotten so used to loving the high-scoring, exciting college football game that, like, it like jars you when you see, for lack of a better term, you wrote this in a headline once because Sam Pittman said it, a slobber knocker.
That's Big Ten football, baby.
It was a slobber knocker between
was.
Indiana and Ohio State, which is funny because Sam said that Oklahoma State was going to be a slobber knocker, and that was not really a slobber knocker.
No slobber was knocked.
None at all. There was plenty of slobber knocked in the Big Ten championship to where, if Indiana can, they've put some points on people too. If Indiana can win that way and they can win the slobber knocker, they're for real.
You heard it here first, folks. We got the slobber knocker national championship between Indiana and Ohio State, the rematch.
In Miami Gardens. That would be beautiful.
Yeah, I'm going to be there.
Oh,
have I told you this? I'm
fantastic.
going. My family is going. I'm very excited. We're going to be in South Beach in January. It's going to be so nice. Just spending a few days out there. We just got our tickets. I'm very excited about it. It should be fun, no matter who's playing. If Ohio State's playing, my brother-in-law is going to be hype. So he's gotten to go for some of their games, some of their playoff games before. So. Thank you so much for joining us. We have enjoyed talking a little bit of playoff football, even though it is not exactly Razorback news. Arkansas is not exactly close to being in this playoff field, but we love college football. We appreciate you joining us. We are going on a little bit of a holiday break. We expect to be back around January 5th. We're going to take some time off for Christmas, for the new year. We'll have tons to talk about when we get back between the start of SEC basketball, more staff announcements for football, portal stuff will be going on. We will have so much to talk about when we get back. And all through that time, we are not taking a break online at wholehogsports.com. We will be working all through the holidays, don't you worry. So everything you need is at wholehogsports.com, and we look forward to being back with you here on the podcast in the new year.